Okay, I think we are up and running. We're up and running. There we go. Okay, hi everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm happy to be here. It's been a crazy week. My daughter only has school 3 days. So we have like the last half of the week off. So I'm trying to like cram everything into a short period of time. And you know how that goes. It's crazy. I hope everyone is doing well. If you're here, say hi. Leave me an emoji. If you're watching the replay, let me know that as well. We're talking about one of my favorite topics, which is arguments, conflict. And if you've heard me talk before, you know that I love it because I think that nothing moves a marriage or a relationship forward than conflict, but as long as you're doing it well. And so I really see like once people figure out how to do this and how to do it well, I just feel like everything else gets easier and everything else like flows a little bit better. So it's and really an area that I like to focus on. And I also know that most of us, myself included, we don't like to talk about conflict. We don't like to have it. We don't like to deal with it. And so the more comfortable we can get to doing it, the better things are. So I'd love to just, if there are any questions about conflict, certainly let me know. And you can also send me a DM and I will respond in the comments too. So I'm going to talk about something that, and actually I'm going to grab, I printed off a quote that I really love and always butcher. But I kind of said this as the secret to better arguments. And it's going to be something that I guarantee you that you don't think that it's going to be. But I also find that it's so nuanced. And so it's really difficult to do it well right off the bat. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So the secret to having better arguments, believe it or not, is humor. Now, the reason that I say that you have to be really careful is because it can also backfire, and I'll talk about a few ways that it can, but really humor is one of the best ways to kind of repair after conflict. And we're going to talk about how to do it. We're going to talk about how not to do it. If you have heard the podcast episode from this week with Ashley, you definitely need to. She talks a lot about humor and how humor has played out in her relationship and in her marriage. But basically, here's what I'm talking about. And at first I say, like humor, but also respect needs to be there too, right? So it has to be like respectful humor, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But the Gottman Institute he basically puts marriages into two categories. And I did not come up with these names, nor do I think I ever would, but here they are. So he calls them masters and disasters. And so he either puts a marriage that he's looking at into the masters category or the disasters category. And what he basically says is the disasters, when they're having conflict, tend to really do a lot of the same thing, right? They tend to be a lot more defensive. They tend to blame in a lot of ways. They tend to have a lot much more contempt, be hit below the belt kind of thing. And what he found was that the masters were much better and much quicker at repairing during and after conflict. And so essentially, if you think about it as, the disasters, so now you are bringing something up, your partner's getting really defensive, you're not getting anywhere, it's becoming more and more escalated, and now you're like both more frustrated, right? And so what this is saying is with masters, you're still having the same emotions, you're still having disagreements, you're still like not things aren't smooth sailing, but what it is saying is that it repairs faster. So instead of like going down that rabbit hole now where things seem to be just getting worse and worse, you're able to repair it and turn it around before it gets bad. If that makes sense. So if something doesn't make sense, let me know. And so these repair attempts is what the Gottman Institute calls the secret weapon for, emotional intelligent marriages. It's like the thing is learning how to repair when emotions are really high and when, you're hurt and all of those things. Is how do you repair it to keep it from getting worse? And that is the key to having better arguments, is can you repair? And one of the number one ways to do this is with humor. And humor has so many psychological properties. It's really linked to, mood. We release all these really like happy hormones in our brain when we laugh. I don't know if you've heard, even a lot of psychology, they have like laugh therapy, because just laughter in and of itself, even when people aren't, actually feeling happy or funny, and what they were doing, they did this whole like thing where they were having people come in and laugh, and they were reporting feeling much better. Like there's just some psychological properties of laughter in and of itself. And so what it is saying is using these as a repair attempt. And there are several others, and I've talked about them too, like taking a break when things, aren't going well, or, asking for clarity, or can we find a compromise here, right? All of those are also repair techniques, where we're trying to still work together to solve whatever it is that's going on. But humor, they say, is a really powerful one because it has all of these extra benefits that the laughter has. And it was saying that the masters, the marriage masters, the ones that really did this well, reported the strongest marriages. So even within the master group of marriages, the ones that were able to use humor, even during times of conflict, tended to have the best results, because it was bringing that repair quicker, if that makes sense. So we know that it's important. We know repairing after a conflict is important. And let's talk about how humor can actually backfire and how you wouldn't want to use it, because that's the thing that I see here. Because people like, oh, we just need to like bring humor into our arguments, and then they go and they do it and it like blows up in their face. So the things that you want to watch out for, that you really don't want to see, are you can't use humor like against your partner, if that makes sense. Like it can't be like a passive aggressive, I'm making a joke at your expense kind of thing. Oh, here we go again, you're doing the same things, ha ha ha, right? Like it can't be something like that. And it sounds like, well, duh, but this happens a lot more than you think. You also can't use it to never talk about the important things, right? It doesn't feel good when like I'm trying to have a really serious conversation and then my spouse just comes and jokes. It makes me feel like we're not on the same page. So there's this fine line between I'm going to use humor as a way to connect us, and we'll talk about what that looks like, versus I'm using it to avoid talking about something hard. I'm using it to avoid getting serious. I'm using it to avoid actually having the conflict. Does that make sense? So really seeing the difference there. If it expresses any sort of criticism, if it belittles the other person's point of view, that is not good. And in all honesty, if you're using it in those ways, it like I said, it actually backfires, and now you're ending in more of the disaster pile than what we're seeing. And so what you want to do, and what the Gottman Institute has said you really see when it comes to humor, is couples that even during times, and it might not be, because like for me, when I'm feeling like really hurt, I really like can't tell a joke. Like I am one of those people that like I I can't lighten the mood just to the sake. I need to like work it out. I need to talk it out. But what they were saying is like, once you kind of are feeling good, being able to kind of laugh together, being able to, even in all honesty, like after you have a fight, like watching a comedian or watching a funny movie or watching something that leads to laughter will also really work in that repair that we were talking about, because it brings you together and it makes you happier and you're doing it together. That's the most important thing. So other ways that they found that they were to do this is, people were able to kind of make light of themselves and kind of that situation. Again, I'm not doing it in a way that makes my point not as important, but I can also kind of laugh at myself if I'm being ridiculous. And like when you notice that you're being ridiculous, that's a great time to also use humor. Humor is one of those things that if conflict were a balloon, it pokes holes. It just lets some of the steam out and it brings the levity back and it brings back the, that we actually care about each other. We actually love each other, and let's treat each other and talk to each other like we do. So other ways that humor can be used is like if you have an inside joke, and because again, what the goal here is that we're on the same team. We both want the same thing, which is we both want to be happy and we both want to be happy together. And so, can we remind each other of that? Can, people who are able to use like examples of, well, remember when I did that and it was an embarrassing moment, right? It just takes some of the pressure off of it. I think also it's a good reminder that we're in this together. So often I find with conflict, people go in saying like, I am going to be right. You're going to see this my way. You're going to fix it my way. You're going to do all this, but just really being able to kind of like lighten the mood enough to be more productive with it. Again, the goal is to use humor as this repair technique and not as a way to avoid having the conflict. So make sure you're using it. So if you are using it inside, you're using it really, really well, like inside the actual argument. And if not, it's a great way afterwards to laugh together, tell stories, tell funny stories, tell your funniest memories that you've had as a couple, like that kind of thing. They just show it's really great at repairing damage that was caused. And because of that, the longevity of the marriage lasts longer, if that makes sense. So these repair techniques are what the Gottman Institute calls is really one of like the secret weapons. Is his quote, not mine. It is a secret weapon that these master marriages have. I guess that was that master marriages have, because they're able to bounce back so quickly after the conflict. They don't stay in it. I remember, in times that I have not been better at conflict, even before my spouse, where arguments would last for days or would never get resolved. And now it's just like this festering thing. And they're saying when you're able to kind of repair it and when you're able to like get back to that connection and back to that feeling good, because let's be honest, that's what we want anyway. Like, no one usually goes into an argument to say, I want to just hurt you. I want to pummel you to the ground and I want you to be as unhappy as possible. Like very rarely if we were to step back. Now in the moment, that might be kind of what it seems like, and it might be what our partner seems like. But really, when we're going into arguments, it's often because I am hurt in some way by something that you have done. And I want to see it fixed. And so we want to make sure that we're using all of these techniques in our toolbox. And humor, I think, is just one that is powerful and difficult at the same time. Hold on, my parents' landline is ringing. I always forget to turn it off because I don't have a landlord. There, they turned it off for me. So let's see. The other thing that you can do is make sure that humor is inserted in your relationship a lot. So even when you're not fighting. And basically what that does is it puts into your kind of emotional it puts a deposit into your emotional bank, so to speak. And so then when you're having conflict and you're kind of making withdrawals during that time, you're still, you're still in the green, black. You're not negative is what I'm trying to say. And so really they say couples that can kind of have fun together, that can laugh together. So again, like if you, my husband and I go to comedians as often as we can. Can you, do you have movies that you like to watch? Do you have places that are, funny? And how do you start to bring that into your marriage more? Because the more you're able to bring that in when you're not fighting, the easier it is to bring it in when you are fighting. And it doesn't seem like that kind of belittling and that sort of thing that we were talking about that can cause problems. So the secret to having better arguments, believe it or not, is insert some humor, but overall insert some repair techniques at the end, right? So end the conversation if it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, end the conversation if you're doing more damage to each other than you are fixing. Do your best to compromise, really listen to the other to understand, right? All of those are really good things. And now you have this other one that has all these really wonderful psychological properties that can come in and can get added to your toolbox. So I highly recommend you kind of try this out. If it doesn't work or it feels weird or it just like, that's okay. That's very common when it comes to this. However, I think that the benefits of it to figure out how to do it well, maybe you don't do it while you're having the argument, but you really use it afterwards. A lot of times I'll say like after an argument when I'm working with my clients, like, you have to do something together to like build up that bank account again. So doing something that involves laughing really helps to build it faster than a lot of other things. And so finding ways to do that. So sometimes we'll like swap embarrassing moments. Sometimes we'll just, again, talk about like memories, because those are always, funny when you look back. Remember when we did this? Remember how fun, like that kind of stuff. Again, just turning something on that's light. My spouse is Big Bang Theory. I'm a big Friends fan. Like, so just finding something that is light and that is, it really does wonders to kind of repair after those moments. And it just gets you that much further ahead. And that is really the difference between masters and disasters. It's not like masters just are better for each other, that they are, doing all these extra things. No, they're having the big blowout arguments. They're just repairing afterwards better. And humor is a really great way to do it. So if it doesn't work the first time, it's really worth at least trying again, tweaking it, talking about it, figuring out how you can do it. If you do need some support about it, like definitely reach out to me. We can figure out how to get that going, how to get it going in a way that doesn't like make you feel like it's being used in a not so nice way, and just get it working for you and get it to where it feels normal and comfortable. And then the more you do it, the more it just easily comes and you don't have to think about it anymore. That's the nice thing with this. And that's why I say when it comes to marriage stuff, you can get results fast, because once you have a process that works, rinse and repeat forever. And maybe something new comes up and you're tweaking, but it's like super little things. You're not like reworking. That foundation is still there. So repair, do it really well, use humor when you can, and, get back to focusing on all the really fun parts of marriage, the loving parts, the parts that feel good, the connecting. For us as military spouses, I feel like doing this repair quickly is even more important for us because we don't get as much time with our spouse. And so we don't want to be spending that fighting. We don't want to be spending it sad. We don't want to be spending it, in anything other than just connecting and feeling good and getting to have those moments together. So finding that way to repair that really works for you is worth that little bit of extra effort to do that. So thank you all for being here today. I love, love, love seeing you all. If there are topics that you would like for me to cover, would love to hear from those as well too. Questions that come up from this, I would love to answer those. You can send me a DM or put them in the comments. And I just really love you guys. And I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And we will see you next week with another topic to improve your marriage. Bye.